It's the most wonderful time of the year as the NFL is back. What is going on out there, world? It's your boy Tommy on the spot for Watchalong Wrestling. Well, actually, Watchalong Football. It's great to be here with you guys. Your eyes are not deceiving you. This is the Watchalong Wrestling YouTube channel. But with the NFL back, and I'm also a huge fan of the NFL, I thought it'd be fun to give you guys some additional weekly content here on the channel. And so each week, I'm going to be giving you my 5 best picks against the spread, and who knows, maybe I'll throw in an extra one here or there. Maybe I'll come in with a little bit of a hotline. I know I'm going to do my own Thanksgiving NFL special, so I'm really excited to get into this here. I've been a fan of the NFL for a really long time. Love to make games a little bit more interesting. Before we do get started, I will of course throw out the disclaimer that everybody hates. Obviously have fun with this. Don't bet above your means. If you've lost for the day, don't try to make it up. Live to play another week, and let's recover. Obviously, we're just doing this for fun. I will say, though, specifically for the beginning of the season, take it easy. Let's see how teams are. Personally speaking, I think that a lot of teams are going to be a lot better this year. I think the Colts are going to be a lot better with Matt Ryan. I think the Steelers, even though Ben Roethlisberger is a Hall of Fame quarterback, I think having a much more mobile quarterback in Mitch Trubisky will be a lot better. But let's see how things go with these teams before we start diving right in and throwing a whole bunch of money down on teams before we really know who they are. Let's allow these teams to gel. Same thing with the Denver Broncos on Monday night. Let's see what Russ Wilson does under center for them. I'm excited about it, but let's take it easy. So you'll see here with my first 5 picks, I'm somebody who tends to go against big spreads. I do not love betting for a team, even if I love them, for going for a big spread, just because I've been burned so many times on the heavy underdog, getting a good-for-nothing touchdown to end the game, and it blowing up in your face, and then the other team comes out, kneels, and you're screwed, right? So I typically like to go for teams where it's a small spread, or if there's a team I think the game's gonna be a little closer, I'll go for a heavy underdog. And you're gonna see here this week, here for week 1, my theme is gonna be all about revenge, including all 3 1 o'clock games where revenge is really right at the thick of things. Not necessarily revenge for all 3 of them, but I'll get into it. And starting with a team I typically absolutely hate to put money on, it is my New York Jets, plus 7.5. Home opener for the Jets here, hosting the Baltimore Ravens. And this was a game that, I'll be honest, the Jets have 4 games against the AFC North. I know a lot of people think the Jets are going to win 3 or 4 games this entire season. I think there's a chance they win 3 to start the season here. They got the Ravens, then they go for the Browns. Obviously, they're at the Browns, at Pittsburgh, and they're home for the Bengals. Now remember, the Jets beat the Bengals last year. I think that obviously as Mitch Trubisky continues to get used to being under center but has Pickett behind him, I think that game's a pretty winnable game, and I think anybody who plays the Browns this season is going to have a chance to win that game. I don't like the Browns at all with Brissett there and with just so much scrutiny around Baker Mayfield and around Deshaun Watson. So in any event, let's get to this game. It is the Ravens. I think they're the best team in the AFC North. I have them winning the AFC North, but the big spread is too much for me. I actually really like Joe Flacco in this situation. It's one of these things where I was waiting for the Jets to announce. I'm a weird fan, right? Obviously, you want to see Zach Wilson under center. You want to see him improve. But I think for win right now, Joe Flacco gives them the best chance to win. If you look at the Jets last year, they actually did a lot better without Zach Wilson under center. I know that he's hopefully improving. I like the kid. I think that for the future, he's going to be the answer for us. But as far as win now goes, I'd love to see what Joe Flacco does, and revenge is a dish best served cold. Obviously, Joe Flacco was pushed out of Baltimore when he was still doing pretty well for them when they decided to go with Lamar Jackson. So now Joe Flacco gets his chance here to go against his former team. And this is not the typical situation where here comes a backup and the team doesn't know what to do. Anytime you've heard Robert Saleh talk about Joe Flacco, he's felt very confident with him. He's felt very good about Joe Flacco. Could this be a horrible game for the Jets? Absolutely. But I'm going to go with the Jets here to at least keep it close. Hopefully win this game, and I wouldn't be shocked if they do. Hopefully keep things close. Get the first win that they have since week 1 of the NFL 2018 season. Sam Darnold's first September win, of course, I mean. Jets have not been good in September. Hopefully we get off to a good start. And if we can get started with a couple wins against the AFC North, I actually think this could be a better season than a lot of people think that it's going to be. If not, I could see this going like 0-9 and it being real ugly. But hopefully not. I hope the Jets win this game, and I think they do keep it close. Pick number 1, the Jets, plus 7.5. keeping things going with revenge here. I really like the Carolina Panthers here. They're right now that game is at a pick'em. I guess there were 0.5 favorites, but now I believe it's a pick'em. Carolina hosting the Cleveland Browns, and if there's anyone who's going to be ready for this, it's Baker Mayfield. I think he's had this game circled on his calendar the second it came out. Obviously, things had a tumultuous end for Baker in Cleveland. They decided to push him to the side, go with Deshaun Watson, even though they knew a suspension was looming, even though they knew they'd get tons of scrutiny. They decided to go with him. They clearly didn't think Baker was the guy. And here comes Carolina, a desperate Carolina team. The coach has to win in Carolina, or that sucker's being blown up, and they're going to go with Baker Mayfield. And I happen to be a big Baker Mayfield fan. I would not be surprised here if things end up going the Panthers' way and they end up winning the division. I'm not going out on a limb that much because Tom Brady does still exist, and the coach so far hasn't proven me anything in Carolina, but I'm going to go with the Panthers here. Get the big win. Baker Mayfield's first win under center for Carolina and his first home win. I think the Panthers win that game, and I'm not even sure it's going to be necessarily that close. Next up, this isn't really revenge, so to speak, I guess, but I'm going to go with the Washington Commanders. Carson Wentz is their brand new quarterback, and I'm way bigger on the Washington Commanders than anyone else seems to be. I actually have them winning the NFC East. Typically, there's someone new who wins that division every year. I'm not nearly as big on the Philadelphia Eagles as everyone is, just because I don't believe in Jalen Hurts. Dak's already banged up, and the Giants are the Giants. But you look at the Washington Commanders, this is a team that won the division just a couple years ago with a veteran quarterback. They bring another veteran quarterback in Carson Wentz, who I think recognizes this is his absolute last chance. Last year with Indy, he was doing well, had a couple of different bouts where he was out, and then obviously things blew up in the end, and they didn't even end up making the playoffs. But I really like what I see here with him, with Washington, and I do think that Ron Rivera does better typically with a veteran quarterback. And if last year Rivera doesn't go for it, for two rather. I got a couple of different games. The Commanders are probably alive for the playoffs going into the final week of the season. So I like them a lot. I have them winning this game, and I'm not big on Jacksonville. I'm not big on, there's a couple of different teams that every year people are big on, right? I understand they have Lawrence. People are excited about it. People want to believe in Trevor Lawrence. We heard about him for so long, and now everyone loves the Jacksonville Jaguars. Everyone thinks the Jaguars are going to be better. Everyone thinks the Lions are going to be better. Every person under the sun seems to have the Chargers in the playoffs. I like to do a wait-and-see approach. How about you prove it to me first? How about you get to the playoffs more times than I've gotten to the playoffs under center? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous how many times people are just ready to anoint people the new faces of the NFL, and I'm not ready to do so. I think Washington wins this, -2.5, absolutely. I'm going with the Washington Commanders in this game. So I guess similarly, I'm going with the Oakland Raiders, or I guess the Las Vegas Raiders, as they now are as of last year. Las Vegas is at LA Chargers, and here's the thing with the Chargers. They do not have a very strong home base, whereas the Raiders typically travel really well to support their team, and Vegas is not very far from LA. So I do expect there's going to be a big contingent there to see the Raiders. People are excited about them. They love the additions that this team has made. The team made the playoffs last year under immense scrutiny. Everything possible off the field could have gone wrong. That could have gone wrong, did go wrong. And now it's like they get a little more stability. Derek Carr is their guy. They're building around Derek Carr, and I love what I see. And this spread here is 3.5. If it was 3, this is a harder decision for me to make. But the Chargers are 3.5-point favorites, and I just think both teams are so evenly matched. And I love a good division game to go with. I'll be honest. I was gonna take Pittsburgh with one of my picks this week. Pittsburgh going up against Cincinnati. They're 7-point dogs. I do not like so early in the season for division rivals to be such big underdogs. But again, I'm waiting and seeing how Trubisky works. But in this particular game, 3.5 is too big for me. I don't know what the Chargers have done, especially when Week 17 last year is the big game where the Chargers are sitting there playing for a tie to hope they get to the playoffs. It was pathetic, and the Raiders end up winning, and in doing so, knock the Chargers out. A little bit of a revenge game for them, but I will say that I just haven't seen the killer instinct from the Chargers. I think this goes back and forth. I think it could go either way, so plus 3.5 has me buying in. I'm going with the Raiders with my 4th pick. Moving right along, my 5th pick of the day, and call me a sucker, I am going with the Green Bay Packers, -1.5 at Minnesota. I know the consensus pick here is the Minnesota Vikings. I recognize that, but for me, I think Aaron Rodgers is the type of guy that he loves when people start to count him out. There's a lot of injuries, right? Allen Lazard is most likely out of the game for the Packers. That's going to make things tough. but I'm going to go with the best player on the field, who to me is Aaron Rodgers. I don't necessarily buy into Minnesota and probably never will with Kirk Cousins under center. So I'm going to hold my breath here. This is a tough week, and I've told you guys that from the start. This is my 5th pick for a reason. It's the one I'm least confident in, but I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers to go on the road and get the win to start the season. They remember they're the type of team that always end horribly in the playoffs, and you're just like, how did that happen? How did the Green Bay Packers lose to Jimmy Garoppolo? Like, what in the world is going on? This team was supposed to be in the Super Bowl, and it didn't happen again. But then they always bounce back to start the season. They're a very good regular season team, and so I'm going to go with the Packers here. So for my picks here, just to recap for you guys, number 1, I got my New York Jets. I hate going for the Jets, but they are my pick, plus 7.5. Hosting the Baltimore Ravens. Number 2, another home team here who's right there on the thick of things in a pick 'em. I'm going with the Carolina Panthers. Moneyline status, don't have to worry about a spread. I love it. Carolina over Cleveland. Next up, I'm going with the Washington Commanders minus 2.5 over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Moving right along, I have a plus 3.5 Las Vegas Raiders going up against the Los Angeles Chargers. And my final pick, I'm going with the great Aaron Rodgers. Minus 1.5 on the road in Minnesota. Those are my picks. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you disagree, agree, and where we're at with that. Follow along with me at Tommy on the Spot. That's my personal Twitter, but I'm going to be talking a lot about the NFL on there. And then, of course, you can always support Watchalong Wrestling. You can support me at Watchalong Tommy. That's all things wrestling. That supports the channel as well. And I'll see you guys next week for the NFL week number 2. Let's make some money. Let's have some fun.